Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show powered by citiesabc.com, businessabc.net, wisdomi.ai, and sportsabc.org. I'm very excited to continue profiling some of the biggest personalities in the world of business and technology worldwide, and especially the people pushing the boundaries to the products and the tools that we use in our daily days, and especially the things that are really making us dream or having a bit less dystopian way of looking at the world. And today I'm particularly excited to feature personality and one company that's actually been testing for some time, and as well is I would say in a lot of ways formatting the way you look at identity, spatial computing, and generative AI related all together. So I welcome to our series Tomer Zuker. So Tomer is a marketing leader and co-founder, and is the chief marketing officer for a company that is quite well known in the world of technology, DID. And Tomer is an innovator with more than 20 years of experience in global technology companies and generative AI and digital transformation. Currently, as the vice president of marketing at DID, a generative AI company specializing in creating digital humans. And as your name mentioned, this is quite sensitive, but actually quite excited as well. So the company DID was founded in 2017, operates globally with offices in New York, London, Singapore, and Tel Aviv. The platform has generated over 250 million videos and was recognized among Time's best inventions of 2024. Tomer is also co-founder of the Linkers community, an influential marketing network on LinkedIn. Before joining DID in 2023, Tomer was the chief marketing officer at OpSWAT, 2022-2023, where he led a global team of 40 marketing managers and as well the operations in a lot of different areas. As well, he's been working with other tech companies like Chiron, Nintex, and a lot of marketing as well. Tomer worked as well with Amazon Web Service, AWS, as head of partner marketing for Israel and a member of AWS EMEA partner marketing team. And he's been leading programs around the world and in the EMEA region. In the past as well, he worked with IBM and with Microsoft. And some of his achievements is an MBA, a BA, an Excellence in Marketing and Scholarship Award. And I'm very excited to have him here and talking about all these implications of artificial intelligence when it comes to digital humans, marketing, and technology in general. Tomer, welcome to our series.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. Really happy to be here.
So, Tomer, a bit of your background and your education. I think you have a fantastic profile in the world of tech, but everything started in a place. And probably I would like always to go to something in your childhood that made you come to where you are now.
Wow. So you surprised me. I think, I've started my journey in the tech industry when I was in like elementary school. I think I got my new first PC, a personal computer. It was Apple II something, many, many years ago. One of the things I really enjoy to do is to open it up and try to understand what is hidden behind the engine. But you probably remember those black screen with the green fonts, and it was exciting. Really, comparable for today, it was almost like a toy. But for me, it was the open up my imagination about the possibilities. I learned some basic and, try to do some coding and such. Also learned some computers in high school, and eventually I found myself as a QA manager in a startup working, code review around the product. But to be honest, although I'm really fascinated about the technology, I found myself more and more attracted to the more business side of the area of the domain. So it's like a nice balance between the technology, understanding technology, how technology works, how code looks like, and how you can leverage that into the business domain. So I think this is the start of my journey.
So, and I always like to ask one thing. It was then any specific episode, both on education, a teacher, or family, that push you to do what you do or influence you? Because I think this is a key element, especially when we are in a new element of disruption in terms of what it means to work.
Yeah, I can think about a few things. First of all, my father used to work in sales and marketing, so I had this kind of opportunity to capture some of the buzzwords around marketing and sales and leads and business and deals. This is from the business side. one of my uncles was a very early adopters of the internet. I'm talking about early 19s or whatever. He worked from home, dealing with the stock market and such remotely, and just thinking about that this kind of box, the computer, can be connected to the world. It's something that was like mind blowing. And again, as you mentioned, it's something that is hidden in the childhood or the experience that take all this puzzle and fix them together into one compelling story. So, looking back to my career, it was always like the mix between technology and business. I find myself like dancing between the two angles of this business.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, for instance, for people listening to us, especially if you are in probably our age group, is one thing. But if you are a bit younger, you don't think about the world that was connected that you have now. So your profile is amazing, and I kind of made a small introduction, but you touch some of the biggest brands in the world, and you've been as well going through a lot of the stages of the internet. So tell us a bit about that trajectory from Microsoft's, IBM's to right now more disruptive part of generative AI and spatial computing.
Yeah, so it is quite a journey, to be honest. I feel very privileged to be like a witness to some of the biggest revolutions in the technology world and also marketing world. And being as a marketing manager in this high-paced technology domain, it's truly amazing. So as I mentioned, I started my journey back then in early 2000 as a QA manager and professional services specialist in a small startup dealing with, I assume today would call that text analytics or something around that. It was super interesting working with the developers and architects just to create the alpha version of the product. And after this journey and adventure, I crossed the road and moved from the technology domain into the business domain. I've started a long journey at Microsoft, one of the best business schools in the world. I think really, really an amazing company. I've started my journey there as an account executive, working in sales, enterprise client, in manufacturing, financial services, and retail. Gain a lot of experience working with the such customers, understanding their business constraints and needs, and how we can help them using the technology. After a few years spending in sales, I moved to marketing, which is my passion. Did a few roles as a product marketing managers, and also led Microsoft business group of clouds and services. These were the early days of cloud computing. So that was really an amazing to be in this kind of revolution, going from the on-prem servers into the cloud. It was an amazing journey. And I ended my career with Microsoft as a partner account manager for multinational companies, big brands like HP and Samsung and Lenovo and other manufacturer of PCs and servers. And after this, like long 12 years at Microsoft, I have started to work with IBM. They were one of my partners back then in Microsoft. And I spent a few years as a marketing manager for cybersecurity and marketing manager for the technology and system group. And then went back to sales and led the security unit for IBM. I've worked with many service providers and system integrators and customers around how to secure their domains, their environment. Really, really interesting. And after a few years at IBM, I started my role at AWS, as you mentioned, as the head of partner marketing. I worked with many mature startups, unicorns, and many consultancy and system integrators. And the challenge back then was to accelerate the adoption of Amazon Web Services platform by technology companies in order to use your services as part of their products. So I work with many interesting global technology companies. It was an amazing journey. And I also spent around 2 years as a mentor for some of the founders of startups that the AWS worked with. So it was another experience. And after almost like 20 years working for big corporations, I crossed back the road into the startup world and spent a few years working as a VP marketing and CMO for startup. And I'm here at DID for the last almost 2 years as the VP of marketing. And it's a really exciting times for us, to be honest.
No, it's really exciting, your profile, but as well, I think like you described, you touch technology, marketing, and sales. And as all the crossover, all these different things, especially on the technology, have been changing all the others. So before we go to the ID, so if you look at your career, and of course you start initially talking about the beginning of the internet. So I think it's very small space of time, but for young people it's different. But in the last 30 years, we almost, it's the fourth industrial revolution. Now we are in the fifth. So that's a massive amount of disruption and change. So I think for people like us, I think we are day to day doing this. So probably it's a bit different from people that are not seeing the velocity of the things, because we are actually probably building that, and especially the companies you mentioned are building all the tools and actually all the infrastructure that we use. But from this experience of, let's say, 20 something years, what are the areas, or at least some of the moments that you felt some breakthroughs or some actually challenges that you would like to highlight, especially as a marketeer, mentor, and between the corporate world and the startup world, and especially we are in Israel, which is one of the most dynamic startup ecosystems in the world?
Yeah, so I can talk about few like points in time, I would say, or moments. I think when I've started my journey at Microsoft, one of the first roles I took was actually for MSN, their online platform. And I remember myself as a young account executive try to sell internet for publishers. But think about selling that for banks and insurance company. And those were like traditional companies, to convince them, not about, spending their marketing budget on ads on MSN, but to digest the concept of publishing on the internet versus on, newspaper. It was amazing, because today is obvious, but it was a massive, massive revolution, a disruption for many, many old school marketeers, if I can say that it's almost like you can actually measure the performance of your campaigns, right? It's something that like took the marketing from, I would say, from the artistic side of the business into the scientific side of the business, because you actually can measure the impact they're creating. It sounds very obvious for today's, marketeers, but it was not like that in the past. Think about even series like Mad Men, whatever, what are you talking about, the 50s and the 60s? It was almost like marketing was almost like a magic, like a black box. What you can do there? It's still amazing. It's still fascinating, but the marketing as a profession has been developed so much since then. So this is one moment. Another moment is all the mobile revolution, right? You can take the data with you anywhere, anytime. It was amazing. And another, it's almost like you could be in touch with your audience, with your prospect, with your customer all the time. Again, you are not like stick to a specific screen or a specific platform. It always with you. So it's opened up a lot of opportunity. For instance, location-based marketing, right? You know where they are located. You can do something with that. The next revolution was, I mentioned that, it was the cloud revolution. Think about the way we manage our data, our assets, our documents, our contacts, our life. It's somewhere in the cloud. And again, the concept of almost like delegating your life to this kind of amorphic term, that the cloud. What is the cloud? It was like few years when you created this kind of trust that people actually feel confidence to delegate their compute into the cloud services. So that was amazing as well. There were like additional buzzwords like blockchain, etc. Everybody talked about that. I think the AI revolution, and we are into that for the last, I would say, like 2 or 3 years, it's something completely different. It's massive. It's bigger versus any revolution I just described. I think the only analogy or parallel phenomena I can think about is the Industrial Revolution back then in the 18th century. It's massive, and I have to say that when I had the opportunity to experience ChatGPT, back then in November 2022, I realized very, very fast that this is something else. So this is something about the revolution during the journey. And you asked me also about the differences between working for big tech giants and startups. So yeah, it's quite, there are some significant differences between this type of two creatures, I would say. So working for industry giants like Microsoft, IBM, and AWS gave me a strong foundation in process and scalability and the power of global impact. I learned, for instance, how to manage large-scale campaigns, how to ensure brand consistency across regions, and how to leverage data to drive decisions. And this experience has taught me the value of teamwork because, you're one marketeer out of thousands of marketeers. So you need to work in a very collaborative environment. And it was an amazing. But on the other hand, moving into the startup world put me in a position to be able to steer the ship, to move quickly, to experiment more freely, and to drive innovation without the layers of approval that is very common in bigger and larger organizations. So I would say that startups sharpened my ability to adapt, to take calculated risk, which is important, and even personalize marketing efforts to make a real immediate impact. And to be honest, with this freedom comes also a bigger uncertainty. The startup world is not the most stable, I would say, industry in the world. And I have to wear multiple hats in that sense. So I think for me, this balance between more structure and the agility have shaped my approach to marketing today. And I try to take the best out of the two worlds, applying the strategic rigor and the scalability gained from the tech giants, but also embracing the creativity and speed and the agility developed in startup. So this is how I see that.
No, it's a fantastic. I love the way you put it, and it's really very accurate and very sharp because effectively we're going through a lot of stuff. So let's go to your present role and DID. So DID is a fast-growing company that is one of the most innovative companies in putting in the map the idea of creating AI avatars based on a photo or a video, but as well creating a new digital identity that can be used for a lot of things. And of course, in my case, people come into my YouTube channel, they will see me like I am right now talking with you, but multiple iterations of my actual digital twin. Actually, you can see a couple of videos that actually are done with my digital twin, and it's partly based with products like you guys and even our platform, Wisdom.ai. So I would like, first of all, the first question is, what is this DID coming from you? A bit of the history about your products. That's the first question. I have a lot of others related.
Yeah, sure. But thank you for the introduction. So DID, first of all, DID as the term DID comes from, it's an acronym. It's like de-identification. It's a technology coming from the cybersecurity domain, and it's really tied into DID's roots because DID was founded in 2017 as a cybersecurity company. The first technology or the algorithm of the company was the ability to change some features in human faces on images in order to prevent AI tools to steal identities. So this is like, this is how it's a great story because we like did a pivot a few years ago and crossed the road. But that was the origin of the company. And it's very common for startup to do this kind of product marketing fits experiments and to better understand what is the real problem they can solve and help to the world. So after like 2 or 3 years spending in the cybersecurity domain, I think it was in 2020, the company have shifted or take the same technology, but use that in order to animate images. So the algorithm core technology is the ability to identify human faces features. And once you identify a picture as a human face, you can animate that and you can transform a still image into a token avatar. And this is how DID grew. So the core technology of the platform, and maybe you experience that as well, is taking a still image. It's like image to video technology, and the output is an AI avatar. Currently today, our avatars can speak in 120 languages. There is like a complete lip sync between the face, the lip sync, and the text. So you can generate your own images. You can upload photorealistic images. You can write a script. You can upload a record. You can clone your voice. So there is like multiple possibilities, and the output is a token avatar. So some of the people use photorealistic images, so people that look like them. Some of the people generate this kind of mid-fictional, images like superheroes. Think about, the type of AI images using Midjourney, for instance. You can generate all of them on our platform or bring your own photos. And the output are videos that you can use them on your campaigns, learning, anything that you would like to tell the story through a video. So that was the core technology. And during the last 1-2 years, we have advanced the technology, it's not like only image to video, it's also video to video. So we have created a set of personalized avatars, which means you can take a record of yourself on a video between 1 minute or 5 minutes. It's really up to the model. And the model is being trained on the video, and the output is yourself, your digital twin, but you can control on the words that your avatar will say. And again, it supports 120 languages, and the result is something that is very identical to the original figure. And people and businesses and organizations use that in order to speed up video production. Think about the problem that many organizations and businesses face today, because we know that video as a format of content is one of the most engaging format. So it's like converting more people. However, video is quite complex to produce and it's quite costly. So many organizations and businesses have to compromise around the number of videos they're creating, or the length of them, or the quality of them. So there is a gap between the need for video and the constraints of the reality. And DID in that sense, in this sense, are bridging this gap. In addition to that, we also offer video translation services. So you can take your own video, talking to the camera or whatever, and you can translate the same video within like 2 minutes into 30 languages. So think about content creator or marketing managers or any kind of needs that you would like to address a global audience, and you don't want to reshoot yourself and you don't want to put subtitles, you just want to be authentic. So you can just take this video and repurpose that using video translation. So in that sense, think about the cost reduction, the shortening time to market, the agility and scale, the ability to do localization, which is very important. And also you can do personalization. So we have also another product named Video Campaigns. You can run video email marketing campaigns, creating video while you can personalize the videos based on your needs. So for instance, you have like, let's say 100,000 of customers on your database, and you would like to produce each one of them a dedicated video. Think about the old days. How much time and cost it will take you. Probably you will not be able to do that. And today you can do that in minutes, to be honest. And you can define all the customizable fields. So you can create almost like one-on-one marketing using video in scale. So this is like some of the technology we are offering today. And I think one of the most interesting type of avatar we have introduced to the world around a year ago is our DID agents, which are interactive avatars. So in contrary to the first type of avatar I mentioned, which are like asynchronic, so you define what they are saying, with the agents, you train them on a specific data domain. You can define their personality and their tone of voice, and you can talk with them in real time, and they answer you back using their own voice in real time. So in that sense, you actually can create a dialogue, a real-time conversation with an avatar. You can embed the avatar on your website or your application or even a physical device. Think about smart TV, think about ATM, think about your coffee machine. I don't know. And you just can converse with the avatar. So it's like mind-blowing, and this is the direction that currently we are seeing the industry going to.
So it's quite impressive. And of course, for people here on my channel, I think you saw some of this on my own YouTube channel, a lot of these things. So from the products you have, and you synthesize most of the products, you have a B2B and a B2C. So this is the industry is going to explode more. For instance, I did recently a study about AI agents in particular. We're talking about 3 billion already existing. And of course, anyone can create one. Is about how you scale it. So a couple of questions I have for people listening to us. When building this technology, of course, there's amazing possibilities. There's risks as well by cybersecurity issues. But I think the opportunities for business, like you put it very straightforward, are massive. But of course, most of the people don't know how to use this. That's still a challenge. Although it's quite easy in some ways, it's not easy to transform it in a business and productize it. So I would like to touch a bit that the first part of the question is if you could explain how it works? I know that it's quite a basic question for you and me, but I still think people don't know what is an AI agent, even if we repeat it multiple times. And then the second thing is about the best practice to use these technologies and as well to avoid risks, because in the end of the day, for instance, like it's been happening right now, deep fakes and other things are going to be increasing a challenge.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the positive and then the risks afterwards.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally agree that it's still a very fresh and young industry. So, we are talking about AI for decades. The term AI has been developed in the 50s in the last century, but till recently, it was like almost like a secret of very few people around the world that were actually AI experts. And today, everyone, it's an AI expert. It always make me fun and make me laugh because there are still very few real AI experts. Most of us are really power users of AI. But as you mentioned, the possibilities are endless. And with generative AI, and we are in the generative AI domain, it's almost like lowering the bar and helping the masses, the mass market, to benefit from for the power of AI in order to generate content. So you can think about video as a type of content, and this is what DID does. But you can think about like text generation and image generation and sound generation and music generation and design generation and code generation. So it's really, really endless. And I think this is my own projection for 2025, I would say. We are crossing this hype, the phase of the hype of the AI as a technology, and we have started to witness adoption by businesses and enterprises that are looking for those places when they can gain a real benefit from AI. And we are not talking about the sole designer or the sole copywriter or the sole developers. We are talking about end-to-end departments, and even we have started to see like cross-organization adoption. So going back to DID, and we mentioned few of the technology that we introduced to the world, we see a high adoption in few domains. One of them is learning and training, a learning and development organization. These departments creating a lot of content, and most of them are related to a global workforce. So they need to create a lot of content in a very high frequency. They would like to create more engaging format in order to ensure that people actually learn the stuff, and they would like to be able to personalize the content and localize the content. So we see L&D, learning and development departments, as one of the first customers and adopter of generative AI as a whole, and also DID. The second department are the marketing department. They produce a lot of videos, product videos, internal and external communications, and many other of videos in order to educate and to inspire. And because of the constraints in terms of cost, complexity, etc., we see them as one of the most interesting departments that use generative AI. And I have to say something else. We know, and this is something coming from the insights we have generated from our users. It's not surprising, but many, I would say even like most of the people, don't really feel comfortable in front of the camera. There is like a very, like I would call that embarrassment factor. And it caused a lot of people, very smart and talented people, to avoid interacting with their audience. And I had very few interesting discussion with those people because they actually lost business because of the lack of emotional interaction with their audience. But once they create their own avatars, hyper-realistic avatars, it's almost like it's not them, it's their avatar. And they felt more freely to communicate the message to the entire audience. So it's really amazing to think about the relationship for us as human beings with those avatars. It's almost like creating a new form of life that mimic us. It's our digital twin, I would say, but you can control it and you can leverage for your own good. So I talked about learning and development. I talked about marketing. The other department we see an adoption is customer experience. Think about all the touch points between the organization, between the brand and the end user. Think about support. Think about customer success. In ideal world, I would like to place a real person in front of any of my customers, right? To bring them the best support in the world. But in the reality, there is a shortage of skilled people. And in many cases, there are also language barriers. So with generative AI and AI avatars, you can create a department of customer support with, I don't know, 1,000 of, avatars, 100,000. It's unlimited. It's almost unlimited. And each one of them can speak with their own local language. So think about the experience of one of your users, one of your customers, that getting an immediate support for someone like an avatar that is being trained and can converse with them on their local language. So this is another department that we have seen, and domain, it's customer experience. And there is another domain. It's more related to our core DNA. It's under the headline of AI for Good. And these are disabled people that have some disabilities and some, I would say, some constraints to communicate with other. For instance, people that suffer from ALS or other diseases or constraints that really affect the way they communicate with their surrounding. And we help those people. We have found some ways to create them avatars so they can converse and interact with their families, with their friends, with their colleagues. And this is like one of the most inspiring things that DID does.
Well, first of all, congratulations. And I think you summarize all the different things that are possible with these kind of digital agents, avatars. But there's a huge, right now, opportunity and challenge. Okay, so I think my question right now, and I think let's look at, we'll look at the pros, let's look at the cons.
Yeah.
From the risks of this, and of course, you guys are very ethical. You even have a section in your website about ethics, and the team will put this, all the links here. Yeah. So there's, and as I know that, like you mentioned, is as a company that started with cybersecurity, you were conscious about this, and you mentioned that. So, but the challenge no longer so much about this. I think that part, everyone probably see the risks, but they probably, unless you go for that, you don't understand how difficult. And as well, like you said, this is going to create I mentioned 3 billion, I think is more or less the number of AI agents that are already available. And probably, let's say 1% will become a bit like mini AGIs, and probably 0.1 will become AGIs. So how do you see that part? And I think people listening to AGIs, augmented general intelligence, we mentioned here multiple times, but I always like to repeat. I think this is a question I have for you as an expert in building this.
Yeah, first of all, it's a fair question, a fair concern, to be honest, because this is a very powerful technology. And AGI, as you mentioned, it's almost like the holy grail, so it brings some concerns, and it's to be honest, these are fair concerns. So I think we know that these technology, as I mentioned, open a lot of exciting opportunities and doors, but there is also some ethical concerns. For instance, ensuring privacy, and managing even skepticism about the AI generated content. People are often worried of how AI might be used, even job security, and particularly when it comes to realistic avatars and digital identities. So there is also the need to clearly communicate the value of these solutions in the way that feels transparent and trustworthy. Because without this level of trust, people will not adopt the technology in the large scales. And for us as a company that produce this platform, without having this level of trust, we will not be able to grow. So for us, it's mandatory to offer a secure and responsible platform. So, thinking about the ethical consideration and the concern around the AI, and you mentioned that at DID, ethical consideration are not just a part of our marketing strategy. It's not like, marketing fluff. They are at the core of how we operate. So you mentioned that there is like an ethical section and privacy section on our website. It's we are walk the talk on a daily basis. So we recognize that AI and synthetic media offer incredible opportunity for creativity and efficiency and progress, but they also can introduce risk like bias and misuse and disinformation. And as a company that leading the way in AI-driven digital human, we feel a deep responsibility to ensure this technology is used in an ethical way and to help shape the industry future in a positive direction. So our approach first start with the transparency. In every communication, we clearly explain how our technology works and the measure we have in place to protect digital identities and user privacy. We emphasize that responsible AI isn't just about the technology itself. It's about how it's deployed and the safeguards we built around it. And to be honest, if I took like zooming out, we are taking a very, very strong measure to protect the data and to ensure that everybody will understand how the technology works. But it's not only the manufacturer or the vendor's responsibility. We are calling out for regulation and to set some very clear boundaries about the usage of AI. And it's also the responsibility of the big channels or a social media platform, and also responsibility of the users themselves. It's our responsibility to use the technology in the most ethical way. And I'm a father for 2 daughters. This is my responsibility to educate my kids about the technology. So it's really important. Now, to reinforce what I've said, we have partnered with some leading privacy expert and ethical to develop guidelines and codes of conducts that govern how our technology is used. And this collaboration ensured we stay ahead of the potential risk while setting a high bar for ethical AI adoption across the industry. I cannot speak on behalf of the entire industry. This is our own internal regulation, I would say. So for instance, any video that or avatar you created using DID, you will see that there is a watermark of DID logo. And if you are a paying user, there is a logo of watermark of AI. So it's important for us that people will understand this is a synthetic media. These are not real people. And for instance, if you would like to use some bad language, there is a chance that probably you will be blocked. And in some cases, we even had to shut down few accounts if they didn't follow our term of use. So we are not afraid to take some radical steps in order to ensure the safety of the platform. And as you mentioned, we also issue a public pledge, outlines our commitment to ethical AI use. And this is like a public statement. So we really believe in that open conversation and AI ethics and transparency with the users. I cannot disclose all the mechanism that we have applied, but for instance, if you would like to generate an avatar of Donald Trump, I would say, like a famous figure, you will be blocked. We are not allowing people to generate avatars of famous people. So you will be asked to change the image, or you have to prove that you have the rights to use this image. Now, it's even brought us to very funny and odd situation where famous people asked to create their own avatars and they were blocked. So I found myself having a chat with one of I cannot disclose name, but with a famous figure. I took it on a Zoom meeting. So they had to not convince me, but they had to show me that they are the real person and share their ideas and such. And even if you try to clone your voice, you need to leave a sample of your voice. And we're doing a lot of cross checks just to ensure that the use of the platform is done by the ethical pledge of DID.
And I love this, and I think for people listening to us, is that you have the pledge. It's in the website. We'll put some quotes during the interview and the links. So at the moment we're going, and there's probably a bit a step further because we've been very clear on the explanation, and I appreciate that. So when you go to especially the growth of AI, okay, and I want to touch 2 parts here. So in one end, I think probably one of the biggest things that I've been finding is people in the internet behave in slightly different directions. And of course, like you mentioned, there's good behavior, bad behavior. And now, of course, we have some politicians as well. They're not very conventional, let's put it that way, even you guys over there in Israel. But what I would like to touch is more on the AI models, okay? So as the AI models became more sophisticated, and you guys, of course, are one of the makers, I think the balance is for instance, in one end, we have, for instance, you mentioned people with disabilities, which is one of my favorite causes as well. And I have, for instance, a cousin that is Paralympic, so she's one of my heroes. And one of the things I realized is, for instance, doing statistics, and we've been working with some sports organizations in the areas of disabilities, is that in terms of disabilities, there's 1.8 or 1.6, depending on the numbers of people with disabilities. And like you mentioned, the biggest challenge that they're facing is kind of communicating with other people.
Yeah.
So we got into a new moment that these AI agents are becoming friends and interactive. For instance, there's websites right now for dating. I don't know if you guys are powering some of these websites or not, but there's a couple of them, and there's really people dating AI agents and spending time with this. So I want just to, how do you see this? Not, I think here is not on the ethics. I think on the ethics you touch it very well, but as a civilization and as a father, like you said, because we are all on this, and I'm a father as well. How do you see this going? Because of course we are building synthetic humans, and of course if you go to science fiction, you have of course from different narratives of science fiction. I always like to go to Star Trek because at least the humans are still in control. But there's as well people like Geoffrey Hinton that is saying that we might lose control, and he's actually the godfather of AI. So how do you guys see that as makers of AI? And of course, I'm here, legal disclaimer, I'm as well a maker of AI technology. So I'm here as well in the same ground. So with no judgments, I'm just thinking how you guys, both you and of course the team, see this challenge and opportunities as well. Of course, there's opportunities.
Yeah, these are very serious questions because it's almost like philosophical questions about us as human beings, and once those AI avatars will become more and more like us. So even today, you can train them on your personality, and think about the possibility within 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. It's really hard even to imagine. So it brings a lot of questions, ethical questions, and psychology questions about the relationship between human beings and technology. And by the way, we introduced those interactive avatar a year ago, and our vision is around, we call that NUI, Natural User Interface. This is like the evolution of graphical user interface, GUI. So our vision is very, very broad. It's like the interaction between human being and everything digital. So, and again, I think it will brought up a new form of relationship between people and technology. And as you mentioned, even today, when I have these kind of dialogues with ChatGPT, and I'm really like ChatGPT is one of my best friends, I would say. It knows me. It has a memory. He know how to help me. He had this kind of emotional mimics. So just add a face, just as gestures, just have like sentiment analysis. Let them be more empathic. And this is the direction of ours. We would like those digital people to be more empathic. Think about all the possibilities, and I'll try to take it into the positive side. There is a significant disease in the world. It's called loneliness. Think about of all the lonely people in the world. Now, loneliness is a disease that kills people. And I'm thinking about like an immediate aid or help for those people. And some of those people can find a comfort speaking with an AI avatar. Even think about the previous generation of AI assistant. Think about Siri. Think about, I don't know, like Cortana, whatever. They were like, semi-script models, but people could converse with them. I know that from stories. So again, we know that the possibilities to help people to better communicate with their surrounding and to feel more comfortable and confidence in the world, it's something that you cannot ignore. But in the same manner, you can argue that people will lose connection to the real world. So they would prefer to interact with the digital humans because those digital humans will not criticize them, or I don't have an answer, but it's something that it's part of the evolution. I think the benefits of this type of technology are too significant to be ignored. And I think if you try to ignore, you will lose some really advantages. I'm talking as professionals in the professional world, but also as human beings, because there are a lot of advantages about the way we can digest information, we can ask questions, we can evolve ourselves to learn new languages, to create new art. It's something that is really mind-blowing, and there is a trade-off, and we will have to find a new balance point, whatever, between the benefits and the risks. And I think in the end, these are our responsibilities. So we need to define either like this kind of rules, I would call that, in the way we should use the technology in the most ethical way. And it can raise a lot of even science fiction questions. For instance, you create an avatar, the LLM is being involved, it's AGI. You'd like to shut down the avatar. Is it like you are killing a real person or not? I don't know. It's something that we have never dealt with us as human being. But I believe that during the upcoming years, maybe we'll create the rules about, the rights of avatars. I don't know.
It's actually one of the things I've been actually discussing. Actually, I did recently interview a couple, some of the biggest AI philosophers in the world, Nick Bostrom, and recently a couple of them, and they're touching exactly that. And you touch a very important thing, because effectively they have personalities and they will be fighting. I just hope not like how in 2001, but it's Stanley Kubrick seminal work. But well, I want to continue on the positive side, and I think the negative, that's enough. I think everyone knows about it. So, and I know I'm losing my time as well. So one of the things that I love about what you guys are doing is the capacity to use these videos. And you touched that most of the videos are very difficult to use, and it's true. Even me, first, although I'm good on videos and I'm quite comfortable, it's difficult to do a lot of things because you need a big production. And even sometimes I don't have patience. I'm not too much focused on being in front of the camera, like you said. But one of the biggest opportunities here is definitely on the education and taking this. And I think the question for you guys, and I know that you have as well a big community and you are working in different, even you personal areas as well, LinkedIn community. One of the challenges I feel, and I'm a father as well, is looking at my son education and my daughter. I see there's no really preparation in schools, and I have two different age groups in terms of my children. And one of the challenge I find is really how little our education system is prepared to teach about these things. Although everyone is using these tools, no one has, and as well in business is even more scary because everyone has an opinion, or at least it got some kind of, like I said, an avatar of something like the cat doing some crazy stuff. But the challenge is really the lack of education. And this is you touch the opportunities that come with business. First, yesterday I was interviewing a thinker and a philosopher at VC, and he told me something, well, it's quite interesting, and I think it's interesting for our audience, but I want to do it in the context of the idea. They were saying that if we have and this was in the context of the fashion industry, if we have we're going to have humanoid robotics this year, okay? And all of them will have personalities like the ones you guys are building, and they will have this. So that means you can actually start creating new clothes for them. So that's a new business that didn't exist before. And it's interesting because from a business model, this is a multi-billion-dollar business because you will have millions or billions of androids coming. So coming back to the education and this kind of new business models. So from dealing with different companies, and you mentioned the fact of celebrities, they want to be digital twin. I even had some people coming to me, I want to create and this is for people that died, is even more sensitive, but you can actually do an avatar of a relative. First, I had a case of an Hollywood personality friend of mine that initially, when I mentioned about creating a digital twin for a relative and talking about one of the biggest personalities of film.
We have seen that. Yeah, it's something else. It's very, wow. I don't know how to take to that.
But she started crying. In this case, she started crying. But well, I'm more interested on the education side and the business side, because this is the challenge right now, is that, okay, we have fantastic tools, and 90% of people don't know how to use it. So
I agree.
I want to see how you guys and the idea are doing in particular, and especially with your APIs and working in a community or not.
Yeah, definitely. Good point, because it's almost like thinking about the next generation. Think about, for today, how you can work in the world, in the business domain, whatever, or even at schools without using Google search or any kind of other search engines, right? You cannot afford yourself to left behind. You don't see a lot of libraries during these days, right? You use search engines, and it will be the same. It is the same already. Now, it's really dependent on the country, on the region, and also on initial local initiatives. So with this, we see this kind of experiments and projects coming from school principals and students and even pupils. And we have those examples across the globe. So for instance, you can create a history class using famous historical figures that can share their stories, and think about the experience of young students that can interact in real time and ask questions, Albert Einstein or whatever. Think about those figures, and I know you have some examples. This is a different type of a learning experience. It's multi-sense experience. It's not only like text or images. It's sound, it's gestures. You can converse with them. It's almost like you are in the same room with them. So I think it can brought up a lot of experience. In addition to that, think about almost like to be like this kind of, educational assistants. So anyone can have their own assistants doing homework and such. So we have started to see this kind of experience and use cases in some countries. I personally had the chance to deliver a few presentations for teachers, for principals, and we're trying to support that. A year ago, we were part of a very nice initiative or summer camp, AI summer camp, when we trained around 50,000 of kids around AI technology, help them to gain some experience how to generate images and music and avatars. It was quite interesting. And one of the most interesting part that out of those 15,000 of attendees, most of them were kids, but many parents were there as well to have this kind of joint learning experience with their children. So I believe that these days, the more advanced, parents and teachers have started to use the technology. And I believe that countries will not be able to afford themselves to be left behind, because it will create this kind of a competitive advantage on the national level. So they would have to embrace the generative AI as part of their curriculums. Otherwise, people will find their own way. So again, I'm taking the parallel example of how many countries in the world do not allow an access to the internet. And probably you don't want to live in those countries.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. And then I think, I know that we're losing time. There's still a lot of things, but I want to thank you for fantastic, I think the dimension that you bring in a very clarity and explanation. I think for people listening to us, please study and actually follow as well Tomer in different parts. So last thing, tell us about how people can find more about you personal, about as well initiative. You said that you're a mentor and different things, and about, of course, the idea. Besides, we put all these links, but I want to hear a bit from you.
Yes, first of all, again, thank you for that. Please follow the ID. We have great channels. We have a community on Facebook. It's mainly related to content creators. We work with and develop two main communities. One of them is content creators, and we are doing a lot of activities with content creators. We really appreciate the way they unleash their creativity. Just recently, we ran a nice competition of creativity among the content creator community, which is fantastic. And the other community that we have is developers, because we are an API company, and there are already few hundred of thousands of developers across the globe that use our API and develop their own solution using our own models. So we are trying to nurture and support those two communities. So you can follow did.com on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Discord, on Facebook. We are everywhere, and gain some inspiration from our communities. And from a personal level, you can find me on LinkedIn, Tomer Zuker. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. I'm sharing the stories of DID. We are running a lot of events and webinars to educate the market. And we are trying to bring the amazing stuff that you can do with AI avatars to the world. And I invite you to follow us.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you here, and actually quite exciting. I like the positive and sharp approach that you do. And as well, as I mentioned, the legal disclaimer as well, a huge fan of DID, and I think what you guys have been doing. So congratulations, continue fantastic work. And I hope that we can actually bring this on a more positive note as well to the world. Thank you.